Again, my name is Mark Rogers. I'm an attorney with the Rogers Law Firm, and I'm here tonight with A Networks and Bill Minahan, who is the CEO of A Networks, which is an IT solutions firm. I work with the Rogers Law Firm, a family law firm located in Braintree, and I'm a lifelong Weymouth resident, so very happy to be here tonight. Tonight, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of some recent developments in data security, which is a huge topic going on throughout the country, and in particular Massachusetts right now. And Massachusetts has taken the lead in passing legislation which is meant to protect data security, both in paper and electronic form. So this morning, this evening, it's been a long day. I'll give you an overview of the Massachusetts new data security law and regulations. I'll give you an overview of the federal red flags rule, which is actually the federal government's response to data security breaches. And I'll go on and give you an idea of how you comply with these new laws and regulations. The question that comes up is, why is it Massachusetts passing this legislation now? And it's regarded, the legislation, which includes the law and the regulations, is regarded as the most stringent data security laws in the nation. So of course that begs the question, why Massachusetts and why now? The answer is actually very simple. TJX. I'm sure we can all remember from a few years ago, TJX, which is the Framingham-based store or company, which owns several retail stores, including Bob's Stores and TJ Maxx and several in home goods. They had a data security breach involving computer hackers. And it wasn't so much that the breach happened that we have now the data security law and the regulations in Massachusetts. It's not so much that it happened. It's the fact that it happened and TJX wasn't aware about it for so long. And then when they did become aware of it, they sat on the information and didn't allow customers, didn't tell customers what to do to protect themselves. So people's information, their credit card information, their debit card information was out there and being used by computer hackers. The statistics associated with the TJX data breach are pretty substantial. Unauthorized intrusion, which affected over 100 million accounts. TJX sat on the information for a few months and investigated it internally. When they eventually came out with it, they said, okay, we conducted an investigation and we found out 45 million credit card accounts were involved. Over time, the investigation grew and grew. And sure enough, it involved over 100 million accounts. TJX went ahead and set aside $256 million for the costs associated with the breach. What that number reflects is for lawsuits, fines, penalties. But what that number does not reflect is the amount of revenues lost as a result of the breach. I think we all, perhaps I might accuse myself as well of having a short-term memory, but at the time, TJX went through a very difficult period, and obviously customer confidence was very low with their brand. TJX, until about last week, was considered the largest data security breach ever to occur in the world. I say last week because if you've been following the papers, there has been another data security breach, and it involved a group of hackers. What is absolutely fascinating about this is that the same guy who led this breach led the new one. And it makes you wonder, how did he get to do that? Why is that happening? He should never be allowed near a computer ever again. What he actually did was he, of course, cooperated with the government, and he turned in all his fellow hackers. And then he turned around and started a new wave of hacking. And what was even more scary about this guy, he's a young guy, late 20s, I believe. He was working with conspirators in Russia and all over the world. He actually worked for the federal government. He was working with Secret Service. So he was quite knowledgeable what he was doing. So as a result of this whole thing, Massachusetts responds. The first thing they do is they come up with a law to protect the security freezes and notification of data breaches. That law is already in effect. It went into effect in February of 2008. The second thing they did was pass regulations to protect personal information that's in the hands of businesses and institutions. That law, the regulations keep getting pushed out. They are now going to be coming effective March 1st, 2010. It's been pushed off for quite a while. And the reason for that is that a lot of people don't think that businesses are ready to comply, and they're not taking the necessary steps. So they keep pushing the law out. I don't think we're going to see it push much past March 1st, 2010, for the very reason of the stories of the last week of this data security. The whole thing, both the law and the regulations, revolve around personal information. Personal information is defined by the law and the regulations as your first name and last name, or the first initial and last name, coupled with one or more of the following: a social security number, a driver's license number or a state ID card, or a financial account number, a bank account, credit card, debit card number. That is personal information. I talked to one person the other day with a business who came to me and was talking about the program, and they said, well, we really don't have to do anything. The type of business I have 2 employees, and we don't really take in residents' personal information. I asked the question, well, do you have W-2s on file? I said, well, of course I do. Well, then you have personal information that goes to that file. The notice, and I'll kind of go through this part very quick, because the notice gets a little bit complex, but the notice is talking about what you have to do if you have experienced a data security breach. So you're a business, and you either own personal information, or you're storing personal information of customers and their Massachusetts residents, and you have a data security breach, then you have to provide notice. And the notice, I'll go backwards in a second yet, it depends on who you're providing it to, but you have to tell that there was a breach of security that you believe, and that it's potential that it could be used for unauthorized purposes. What should be in the notice? Well, it depends on who you're sending the notice to. The law actually requires, if you're a business and you have a data security breach, you have to provide notice to the resident affected. You have to provide notice to the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation, which is a state agency. You also have to provide notice to the Attorney General's office. And depending on who the notice is going to, you have to include certain information. If you're telling it to the resident, you have to tell them that they have the right to get a police report. They have the ability to get a police report as a result of the incident. If you're taking it to the Office of Consumer Affairs and the Attorney General's office, you would tell them how many residents are affected, so the government can begin investigating. The breach of security, that's really not a great slide to have because it's a kind of a long-winded definition. It's a legislative definition. The key is, and this is what I like to point out here, and I think so many people have a misconception because we hear about this story in the paper about this data, this hacker, and these group of hackers, and that's everyone keeps thinking, oh, they're going to break into my computer system. That certainly is the concern, and a significant concern. But the key to remember is that it involves not just electronic data, but also paper data. So it goes to not just different things you can do to protect your computer system, but also what's reasonable under the circumstances. Are you locking the doors to your offices? Are you making sure your files are put away? Do you have assurances from the cleaning company you use that they have appropriate security policies and procedures in place?